one of the reasons why I think the frame-making sale resonates so broadly and so strongly with so many of us is because at the end of the day, it's not just a sales story or a selling story. It's really a buying story. It's a story of how all of us buy, not just in B2B, but in B2C as well. And the reason why that's the case is because it's not just a selling story or a buying story. At the end of the day, it's a human story. And one of the ways that we sort of articulate this or demonstrate this in the book is through a common experience that many of us, not all of us, but many of us have in shopping online, say, for example, at Amazon. There's this really interesting phenomenon that maybe, and I'm about to lose 20% of you right off the bat because this is a story of essentially what we call maximizing and satisfying. We'll come back to that in a minute. But there's many of us who, when we go to Amazon or somewhere else online to make a relatively simple purchase, we nonetheless get stuck. And let me give you an example. So the other day, it's a true story, I was on Amazon and I needed to buy a dongle, right? A dongle is simply, it's just a short cord to connect a laptop to a phone. In this case, we're all upgrading to USB-C. So I needed a USB-C dongle. No big deal. You figure what, $5-6. You go online, you put in dimensions, I need 6 inches, whatever. And so what do? You go to Amazon, you put in dongle, put in the specs, USB-C, etc. And Amazon, and you hit search and Amazon says like, well, I've got your back. No problem. Here it is. Here's 5,000 options. And it's like, okay, that's a little overwhelming. I don't even know where to start. But so Amazon, recognizing that this can in fact be overwhelming, they sort of got your back and they said, no problem. In fact, we're going to give you some guidance, some framing. So here's a Amazon's choice or customer's top pick or whatever it might be. And so there's a couple different criteria. And so you pick sort of the top choice, you click on that and say, okay, yeah, this looks good, right? It's like bada bing, bada boom. I'm buying a dongle. Here it is. It's like, $7. It's got the right size, got the right adapters. I've never heard of this brand, but that's okay. All right, let's put it in the cart. Let's go. Actually, hold on, wait, before I make the purchase, just real quick, and then we'll get on with our lives. Let me just read a couple of reviews just to make sure everything's good. It's got 4.8 stars. And so, lots, love it, love it, love it, love it. That's great. Okay, just before I make the decision, let me just check on, there's a couple of these 1 stars. That's a little weird. What's going on? You click on the 1 stars. It's like, oh my God, right? See, these 1 stars are like, do not buy. This thing broke. It arrived broken. It's like, you'd be a chump to buy this. It's like, whoa, it freaks you out. It's like, whoa, dodged a bullet there. I'm so glad I didn't. I almost bought that thing. Phew, saved myself from that one. You say, well, I still got to find a dongle. So let me check the next one on the list, right? This one doesn't have 4.8 stars, but it's 4.76 stars or whatever it might be. And you look at that one and, and like 3 hours later, you're still on Amazon shopping for a freaking dongle. And you're getting really frustrated because you thought this was going to take 5 minutes. In fact, now it's taking multiple hours. And, you're sitting there thinking like, at the end of the day, you get really frustrated, not with Amazon, but with yourself. It's like, this is why I can't have nice things, because I can't freaking make a decision, right? And it's like, it becomes sort of exasperating. And at that moment, you're thinking, I just wanted a dongle. And why has this become so hard? Amazon has got your back yet again, because they've got a button. And if you press that button, all the pain stops. And that button simply says, save for later. And if you hit save for later, you don't get a dongle, but you do get your life back. And I think that's sort of this interesting thing is like, how many times along a buying journey, even for something relatively simple and low involvement, like I did the same thing with a pair of gym socks the other day. It's a true story. And it's like, never mind. I thought this was going to be easy. It's turned out it's way too hard, let alone things that are higher involvement, right? Let alone big, things in B2B where it's like multiple stakeholders across multiple weeks and months and steps and budgets and you name it. And I think that's the thing is like, how many of us just wind up hitting the save for later button. When I tell this story, I always joke at the end, which is true. It's like, I joke when on my wife's Amazon account, I think she has 582 items saved for later. It's 582 sort of times a purchase decision ended in no decision at all, simply because it just became too hard to make any decision of any kind. And I think this coming back to sort of, now there's somebody who's like, dude, I just went on Amazon and bought a dongle. What's the big deal, right? That is the difference between what we call satisficing and maximizing. These are well-established ideas in the field of psychology, where there's some of us are just like choosing good enough. So we satisfy. So we don't choose the best solution. We just choose the best one for right now, just a good enough solution. But many of us, and this could be contextual, it doesn't have to be you as a person, but you in a specific context. Many of us in many contexts will gravitate towards maximizing, which is, there's always a little bit more to learn. There's always a little bit more research to do. And as the stakes get higher, there's a general tendency for us to gravitate more and more towards maximizing. Some of us do it even in the simple stuff like dongles. But certainly in the world of B2B and multiple stakeholders, particularly if I've got 5, 10, 15 stakeholders, it just takes one or two of them to gravitate towards maximizing for this whole sort of buying process, the buying journey, to become stuck and for the company to hit the save for later button. And so as we think about sort of why frame making is so important, particularly in the world of information, the question we want to ask ourselves is how do we help our customers bound that decision? How do we help them put a frame around it in such a way that it doesn't feel so overwhelming, that we help them feel more confident in making a choice based on things like social proof, but helping them focus on the 2 or 3 questions that matter most and helping them feel good about the answers they're getting to those specific questions. And in the book, we unpack sort of what that looks like and how to do that. But I think it's a really important thing to just think about your own experience on buying something relatively straightforward online and how you got stuck. And I think for many of us, you can sort of sympathize and empathize with your customer that's going on this bigger journey with a lot more people and something much more complex. And then you begin to realize the urgency for frame making, because otherwise, your customers, they're not going to get your solution, but they will get their lives back. And at the end of the day, for them, that might be what matters most.